study,
and play come together on a Windows 11 PC.
And for a limited time, college students get
The best of both worlds.
Get the Unreal College Deal. Everything you need to study and play with select Windows 11 PCs. Eligible students get a year of Microsoft 365 Premium and a year of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with a custom color Xbox wireless controller. Learn more at windows.com/student offer. While supplies last. Ends June 30th. Terms at aka.ms/collegepc.
Struggling with weight loss? Prolon's 5-day fasting mimicking diet is a clinically developed nutrition program designed to promote fat loss while protecting lean body mass. Developed at USC's Longevity Institute, it assists the body in entering a fasting-like state that helps reset metabolism and target visceral fat. In just 5 days, Prolon offers a science-backed approach to weight loss without extreme restriction or guesswork. Get 15% off plus a $40 bonus gift when you subscribe at prolonlife.com/now.
Welcome to the Susan LoPresti Wellness, Mind, Body, and Soul podcast, the go-to space for midlife and mature women who are ready to reclaim their health, boost their energy, and live long, vibrant, and purposeful lives. Each week, we dive into natural wellness, holistic healing, and anti-aging strategies and healthy lifestyle habits to help you feel your best, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Whether you're navigating menopause, working through chronic conditions, or simply wanting to age gracefully and intentionally, this show is your sanctuary for science-backed insights, powerful stories, and soul-nourishing inspiration. If you're a woman, 40 or 50, looking to thrive in the next chapter of life, you're in the right place. And today I have a very special guest with me. His name is Greg Lothian, and he is an athletic therapist certified through the Canadian Athletic Therapist Association and a specialist in biomechanical stability training and reconditioning. He is also the founder of Acculete, a systematic approach to improving the biggest challenge in physical health, adherence to strength training. Acculete educates and supports professional health practitioners to become central figures in the healthcare industry, revolutionizing how they assess, treat, and optimize human movement. With over 27 years in the health and wellness industry, Greg uses a unique holistic therapy model over the traditional session-based approach, incorporating innovative tools and the latest strategies to offer long-lasting results with patients. He is passionate about sharing his insights with other health professionals for better patient outcomes while building a thriving business. And without further ado, Greg, thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate you coming on, and I'm really excited about our conversation.
Thanks for having me. I love your energy.
You're very welcome. So let's get into this conversation. And you are the creator of Acculete. Is that the way you say it? Acculete?
Acculete. It's a meld between accurate and athlete.
Okay, Acculete. Yeah. Tell us about that.
So I've been an athletic therapist, strength coach for going on 30 years. And the way I work, because I came from the elite program, so I was in varsity for a while and then in some high performance programs. And then I moved by choice, into the public sector. Technology availability and how we could service clients and do all that sort of stuff wasn't the same, because typically the stuff that we need, the stuff that we want for tracking and recording and doing all the things we need to do are obtrusively expensive. So for years, I looked for solutions for the things that I needed. And eventually I got sick of looking because nobody was going to make it. So we set out to make it. And all it is really is a simple force dynamometer. A force dynamometer is just for like measuring like strength that you use in like a physio studio. Mm-hmm. And it's also a smart anchor. So what we can do with that now is take this technology, do some recording, get some objective measures, and then get the technology into the end user's hands so that they can train and track and stay motivated and understand themselves better, understand the process better. And yeah, and so we moved to a technology that really I built it around exactly what my needs were as a practitioner.
So professional people are using this when they're working with clients, or is it the end
Yeah.
user that's using it?
So that was the thing we were trying to solve. It's both.
Okay.
So it's on the professional end when we're doing assessments and trying to figure out, what people's imbalances are and what's, not functioning and all that sort of stuff. We want to have objective measures. But what's really interesting, I talked to a lot of practitioners about, is it's not good enough that we do these assessments that us as professionals understand. It's like going to a mechanic. If you go, you bring your car in and they just tell you a bunch of stuff that's wrong, you don't know them, you don't know what their motivations are, you don't understand what the problem is necessarily, and they're just telling you, here's this big bill that they're going to give you. So I'm a big advocate of making sure that the end user fully understands what's going on, because one of the things that I often talk about is humans will only do things that they want to do. It's not, you can't just tell somebody, it's like, well, it's really important that you do this. It's interesting that you think it's important that I do it, but it's much easier to get people to do things when it's their idea, because they only do things that are their idea.
Human nature, right?
Human nature. Yeah, I'm the same way.
Right. So the practitioners are on the front line. And so how does that help the patient to thrive? Are they being motivated with this app? And, what is the practitioner's involvement in it?
So it's really to help them fully understand and buy into what the problem is. I'm a big advocate of accountability, and we talk a lot about as professionals, accountability. But I
Mhm.
think one of the things that we talk too much about is holding our clients accountable. And I've always turned back to the practitioners to say, yeah, well, what about you? Because basically there are three types of responses for accountability. One is, did you do your exercises? Did you do the things that I told you to do? And so, very often the answer is no, they didn't. So there lies a problem there. So why didn't you do them? And helping people to fully understand what the magnitude of the problem is and how to fix it addresses that. But at the other end is, what if they come back and say, yeah, I did all the exercises. There are essentially two things that we need to look at there. One is, so you did the exercises or the things that I told you to do as a professional. Are you getting better? Are you progressing? And if the answer is yes, then that's great. We continue on. But, and very often in our industry, the answer is no. And if the answer is no, then maybe I'm the problem. Maybe the accountability should be on me. And I think there's just not enough of that in our industry. So if
Mhm.
we can help the end user fully understand what the magnitude of the problem is and where the problem actually exists and how it's actually showing up, then when they come back and they say, I've done all my stuff and we're not progressing, well, is the practitioner now taking a step back saying, oh, obviously missed something? Or are they pressing forward like, well, it'll get better over time, which is just really a story that they're trying to tell their clients.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's
So,
really important to me that, because I've been in this for a long time, is when you can help somebody fully understand what's going on and how it's showing up in their lives. Going back to the mechanic thing, if you go to a second mechanic and the mechanic gives you a list of things, and here are the things that are really important, here are the things that are showing up, and this is how they're showing up. Here are things that you could probably fix later, and here's a list of things that, they're going to show up, but you don't even need to fix them. Well, now you have a better understanding of actually what's going on and what you have to concentrate on, and it makes it much easier to address the problem.
yeah. What are some conditions that you see most of?
So,
Clients coming to you.
yeah, my clients come to me. So when you look at the injury rehab world, there's three stages of rehab that are well known that we studied when I was, back in the 90s when I was studying. So stage one is really, the early onset injury. You got to help them get rid of the pain, all that stuff, restore movement. Stage two is sort of a continuation of that, but you're restoring a little bit of function. Stage three is often where people drop off. So there's still a bit of like maybe a little bit of latent pain, but there's definitely some latent dysfunction. People stop being able to justify paying every single time they show up to see a physio or something like that. That's where I come in. So when people come to see me, they're typically, they've got back pain or the shoulder pain. They've got an obstacle that's really holding them back from getting back to health, fitness, and really maintaining that routine. And one of the things that I talk very often about is what I call a vitality pathway. Well, the vitality pathway at one end of the pathway is injured, incapacitated, basically as close to dead without being dead is that end. The other end is the highest level of high performance training, where people are at their peak. Well, all of us are somewhere along there. Well, very often, especially after the age of 30, people are right at the end in that injury rehab phase 3. They got latent things going on, whatever, but the mass media forever has been saying, if you can, all you have to do is get back into fitness and then you'll correct everything that's going on. Well, one of the things that I identified many years ago and how I created my business is there are 5 distinct things that you need to address if you want to go from stage 3 injury rehab to being ready for the fitness world. And the proof of that is how many people we know that have entered into fitness and just been injured and kicked all the way back down to the bottom again. It's because they're doing things that are inappropriate for where they are on the pathway. So what my practice is I take them from injury rehab phase 3 to what I call reconditioning phase 1. So there are 5 phases, and it's not a timeline, so everybody's a little bit different. I just check to make sure that all of those 5 things are ready to go so that they can get into fitness. So when people work with me, they have to work with me for a year. I'm one of the very few practitioners, I think, in the world, probably, that doesn't charge by appointment. I don't count appointments and I don't charge by appointment. I believe in helping people the best way that we can. So we walk through the process to get them back to all of the activities they want to do and teach them a ton about themselves along the way. I want to make sure that when they go to join whatever group training class, whatever it is they want to do, that even if they have a very, amateur or complacent coach, but they really love the style of training, that they understand enough about their bodies that they can actually continue to do it and know what to do, how to protect themselves, how to get the most out of it.
And know what their limitations are too, I would assume.
Yeah. And hopefully how to really get past all those limitations. And
Yeah.
yeah.
So how has firefighting, because I know you were a firefighter at one point, how has that taught you to see patterns in physical dysfunction?
Yeah, so I was a firefighter as a volunteer for 6 years. And just because the group of people that I was working with applied to become full-time, I applied as well. I'm now in my 18th year. I'm still active as firefighter full-time.
Oh, okay.
It's my side job. It's a great side job. I love it. And my mind, what's interesting is I've spent my entire life trying to make sense of chaos. So when it comes to firefighting, you're looking at the things that are the most important to address right now. And it's interesting because in the injury rehab and performance, it's the same thing. You're really looking at like, okay, we can see this in the media right now, from a fitness point of view, how many things they're throwing at you, like you need to do this and you need to do that, when really we should just be having a critical look at ourselves, having somebody look at how we're moving, why we're moving that way, what we're doing, and what's the one thing we can do right now, not the 10 things we need to do right now. So firefighting, it really, there are two things. One is the chaotic environments, is how do you make sense of that? Two is when it comes to training, being strong, being resilient, being in a condition that you can be in extreme situations and be able to pull yourself out of that or pull somebody else out of that for that matter. How are you physically prepared for that? And it's taught me a lot about actual training itself and being prepared for the unexpected. And I use it in my practice now when I have for years anyway. When you look at how somebody's moving and why they're moving that way, and then you ask them, it's like, well, what do you really want to be able to do? And everybody's different. Some people want to look better in the mirror. Some people want to be able to garden all day. Some people want to be able to surf. It's you have to now take some of well, what's the most extreme situation you'll be in? Let's pick that apart a little bit and try and rebuild that to make sure that you can do that reliably.
Yeah. So for, let's say, a midlife woman who comes into you and she may have some back issues, but also she hasn't done any kind of physical activity, working out, and she's got a lot of muscle loss. How do you get a woman at that age, let's say she's in her 50s, and as women are aging, their bones are becoming porous, osteopenia, osteoporosis. How do you get a woman back on track as far as becoming stronger, having better balance, more stability on their feet, and just feeling stronger and overall wellness? What do
I
you
think,
recommend?
well, I think the first thing to address is you haven't fallen off track. It's totally fine where you are. I think, there's this expectation, oh, I haven't done all these things that I was supposed to do. Hey, you did all the things that you needed to do when you needed to do them. Starting at the beginning is actually an excellent place to start. So it's not that, like, oh, I'm not in good enough shape to start this. Sometimes the most difficult cases are the people that have trained poorly for years. It's so difficult to get them to change, not from a mental standpoint, but because biomechanically, like how they're moving is so ingrained that it can be frustrating. It can take some time to sort of peel all those layers back and rebuild. When you're starting, you haven't trained a lot and you're a bit sore, maybe you feel like you're overweight. There are so many positives in starting there because we can just pick one thing, start getting good at it, build from there. And if you look at it like it's a marathon, not a sprint, which it is, it's always proven to be that way,
Mhm.
then the only thing that really matters is that who you're working with believes in consistency and long timeline. Build positivity, build, habits that fit into people's lifestyles. One of the advantages of working with people for a year is almost every single person, somewhere between the 5th and 7th month that I'm working with them, they'll come in and say like, this, my lifestyle is really crazy right now. Maybe it's there's this time of year that's really, really difficult. And this is where people fall off the rails.
Yeah.
And I just sit down and say, yeah, it's totally fine. You missed a workout. It doesn't matter. It won't matter in the long run. And actually, it's a really good time to let's not even train today. Let's sit down and talk about what your lifestyle looks like. And maybe it's at certain times of the year, you have to have different expectations of what you're able to do. A good example, I had a guy, it was a few years ago, and he worked in distribution for like retail distribution, but from the wholesale end of things. And pre-Christmas, October, November for them is absolutely insane. So I mean, the plant is just running full time, trying to get like cosmetics and stuff like that out to all of these stores and all these things. And he's coming back. So at the end of the day, I'm so tired. It's like, you know what? When we look at athletes, all athletes have an off season,
Mhm.
all of them. And we want them to have an off season. Matter of fact, in the sporting world, it's mandated now to have an off season. And it's just like that. There's a time of year that it's just like really difficult to get everything done. Well, instead of just being like, oh, forget it, I can't do it. Talk to somebody about like, okay, what are the things that you could do right now that would be the best for recovery? Let's only do recovery stuff, for the next 6 weeks, 4 weeks, 2 weeks, whatever it is. And it's totally fine. You haven't lost anything. Matter of fact, you've probably gained. One of the questions that I get often asked is what's something will surprise other people about me? And I train probably much less than everybody I know.
Wow.
And because I'm not, I'm not seeking to be on the Olympic team. The highest end of high performance is not health. One of the things that people need to understand is the absence of sickness is not health. So when you look at very high level athletes, the coaches they're working with are doing everything they can to stop this person from falling apart. That's what they're doing. They're not making them perform better. They're helping them perform longer because what they're doing is inherently destructive. So they need an enormous amount of recovery time. Well, when we look at the general population, the active general population, yeah, don't be so hard on yourself. Train less, recover more, work on mobility, enjoy it. Don't do things you don't enjoy. If you don't like going to the gym, there are 1,000 other things you can do that are just as good. Join a Tai Chi class or a Pilates class or whatever. It's about figuring out, one of my big goals as a practitioner is to talk to as many practitioners. And when I talk about practitioners, I'm talking from a personal trainer who's been in it for a year to a sports medicine physician that's been in it for, 25 years, and help them to understand what's truly important about the people that we're working with, and that the vast majority of the population do not need anything close to what we're seeing in the media right now.
Right. And everyone is an individual with individual needs and limitations. And I'm sure that you have to customize programs around individual people. It's
Yeah,
not a one size fits all for
no.
everyone.
Yeah, and it's funny. I was speaking at a conference this last weekend, and one of the things that I talked about was exactly that. It was like, when we look at the research that's, and we're talking about evidence-based practice, oftentimes when you get into conversations with other practitioners, and one of my things is I ask them, so where's the evidence? I mean, we're going on studies that may have taken 40 white males from the age of 25 to 35, and they've studied this very specific thing.
Mhm.
How does that expand out to 8 billion people that have different walks of life, different life experiences, different, like, this is not evidence. Evidence is if we can start to track everybody and get much better data on like what effects will happen at the age, between the age of 55 and 65 with women who were previously inactive versus women that were active, I mean, there are so many different things to look at there. And I think, we're a little ways away from being able to gather that kind of data. But to your point, it's like there are many, many different things out there. The human body is very complicated. Let's just bring it down to the simplest things possible. Let's not be so hard on ourselves, and, just try and increase our health span the best we can.
Right. Do you incorporate diet or healthy eating with your clients? Do you talk about that?
Yeah, so, the other advantage of working long term with people is we can start to look at things like I don't give diet plans or
Right.
subscribe to any particular thing. What we give is habits. So dietary habits would be more like, okay, so what day are you shopping and prepping your food? Because the shop and prep routine is very important. If you're going to be ready for a busy week, and you need, a lot of us need a little bit of grab and go sort of food.
Mhm.
Well, it better be prepared. So like a really good example of that would be like, okay, I shop on Saturdays. I typically shop on Saturday or Sunday. And if I shop on Saturday, I'll probably spend an hour and a half, something like that, on Sunday prepping food. So just cutting it up, getting it ready, sit in the kitchen, talk to the kids, do the thing that I need to do, package some stuff up so that it's ready for the week. And then, a really good one that is adopted very often is shop on Sunday. Maybe you take like a 4 hour block where you shop and you do all your food prep and you make it a thing, whatever, with the family or whatever. And then all you have to do is on Thursday is refill with a few things. And if you got a social event coming up, maybe that's a good time to buy some stuff because you're hosting people for Friday night or something like that,
Mhm.
whatever. And it minimizes going to the grocery store every second day and trying to figure out and staring at the fridge and figuring out what I am going to make and all these types of things that we spend an enormous amount of time. When you tell people it's like, oh, it's like 3 or 4 hours to shop and prep, 3 or 4 hours again. Okay, I want you to take a stopwatch and just click every time you stare at the fridge and you're trying to think about what you're doing with food. I can guarantee you're probably spending 6, 7 hours doing that during a week. It's so it really cuts down on the amount of time that you need to put into it.
Yeah.
So
And if you're not prepared and you don't prep for the week, you end up making very poor choices a lot of times because now you're like, okay, what are we going to eat? And that's where a fast food restaurant comes in or something,
yeah,
and you're
exactly.
sabotaging
And we're
yourself.
all the same. And that's the other thing, like I think a lot of people that aren't us as practitioners are like, well, you guys are used to it or whatever. If I don't prepare, I eat like garbage. It's
Right.
just like everybody else. So it's like, you have to put the time into preparation and make it a priority. Like very one of the things that I love when you talk to people about like, oh, at the end of the week, I'm just going to go out and I'm going to get, at a really busy week, and they typically go out and get garbage food. And one of the things that I tell them is like, okay, so are you coddling yourself or are you rewarding yourself? Because if you're coddling yourself, you're probably getting garbage food. But in my eyes, if I'm going to spend, 50, 70, $80 on a meal out, shouldn't you be rewarding your body with really good food? Go to a place that provides really good food and maybe do that once or twice a month instead of doing the garbage food every week, that type of thing. So spend a little bit more, do a little bit less, and actually make it a reward for your system. That's how, if we can just reorient ourselves around that subject matter, where good food is the reward and bad food is it's the garbage, it's really not a reward, it's sort of just coddling ourselves, then that it's helped a lot of people that I've worked with anyway.
Yeah. Do you see a difference in someone in how they feel? Let's say someone comes to you and they're in a lot of pain, and maybe you talk about their diet and they're eating a lot of processed foods and takeout type foods. And if you talk to them about changing their diet and eating, whole foods, real foods, not processed foods, do you notice a change in how they feel physically, like less pain or less inflammation? Do you see that correlation a lot?
So here's where most people see it, if you do it consistently. I think it's a slow change. So like it's, like watching a kid grow, you're like, oh, you don't really notice it until all of a sudden, weeks later, oh my God, you're so much taller. Nutrition's the same way. It's like, yeah, I feel better. But here's what I tell them to watch out for. Let's just eat well consistently. And we're, because we're doing movement-based stuff at the same time, it's starting to feel better. I have less pain when I do this activity, whatever. But I do cue them into like, if you ever now revert back, I want you to really cue into how you feel if you revert back to some of the other foods that you're eating. And that's always been where it's been more remarkable for people. They feel a bit better, they do all of this. They're actually feeling a lot better, but because the progress is very slow, when they eat the garbage food, it brings them back to where they were, and they're like, oh, I felt like this all the time. Oh, okay, now I get it. And then when they go back to eating the food, the good food, they're like, oh my God, I feel so much better. Like this is so much better on my system.
Yeah.
So when you're doing it the first time, just, plug through. Don't be too hard on yourself. Eat healthy, eat whole foods, do the things you need to do, and pay attention to the time that you sort of just give in to, whatever, old habit that you had, and really get into how that makes you feel, and register that that's how you felt all the time when you were eating like that all the time.
Right, right. Yeah, I brought that up because my own personal experience when I was in my mid to late 40s, was suffering with migraine headaches. I had terrible gut issues. I had frozen shoulder. My feet hurt. My legs hurt. I just hurt all over. And I going to conventional doctors, I was being told that it's natural for a woman of your age to be feeling this way. And I was like, I don't think so. That just didn't make
This
sense
can't
to
be
me.
right. Yeah.
Right. And so I went to see a functional medicine doctor, and as soon as we sat down, we spoke for over an hour in her office, which is completely unusual when you go see a doctor, usually in and out in 2 minutes. And she asked me all about my life history, my parents, where they were born, where they grew up, and before she was bringing me in to have blood work done, she said, I just have one other question for you. And she goes, what food allergies do you have? And I said, oh, I don't have any food allergies. And she said,
Yeah.
oh, yes, you do.
Oh,
I
yes, you
don't know
do.
what they are yet, but just looking at you and hearing how you're feeling, I know for sure that you have food allergies. And sure enough, I had celiac disease.
Yeah.
And
That'd make you really feel bad. Yeah.
yes. And so it took me like 6 months of following the way she taught me to eat and staying away from gluten, staying away from dairy, no sugar. It was life changing. It was very, very difficult to do, but I was feeling so bad that I was really desperate to want to feel better. And so I continued on, and within 6 months, it made a world of difference to me. And that's why I actually decided to become a health coach, because I was thinking about all the doctors I went to see previously that just told me it was normal to feel this
Normal.
way at
Yeah.
your age. And I was like, how many women go see a doctor and are told that, and they just accept it as their new reality
Yeah.
when it doesn't need to be? And
So I get that a lot in the back pain, knee pain, runners activity, where they're going to see these GPs, and the GPs are like, well, you probably shouldn't do that activity anymore. And I'm like, whoa, wait a second. Most people's pain is from the way they're moving, and definitely what they're eating. And if you can address those two things, how people move and what fuel they're putting in their systems on a regular basis, everything changes.
yeah,
It's remarkable. I mean, just the sugar alone. If you can get the sugar out of your system, and I'm like, I am an absolute cookie monster. I cannot be around those types of things. It's just like, and I'll catch myself, and at the fire station, there are people dropping stuff off. There's
oh
always stuff
yeah,
available, and so you'll eat it. And one of the things I know about myself, if I consume something like that, I typically work out around 3:30. It's a good time for us. We normally train in the mornings when we're at the station and stuff like that. And I'll train around 3 or 3:30. If I have, if there's some junk food around and I just like unconsciously sort of grab that, it ruins my workout.
yeah,
Like totally. Like, I mean, it takes, it took me years to clue into that, being like, no, you can't, you can't touch that stuff. You just gotta, you gotta be disciplined. Their discipline comes into, you're gonna be exposed to stuff. Prioritize yourself, prioritize how you feel. And, there are some hard and fast rules that you might have to apply to yourself. Don't consume that, love it or not. don't consume it, and you'll get used to it, and it'll turn into something that just isn't a big deal over time.
Right. It
Yeah.
becomes a new way of living.
Yeah,
And
totally.
Greg, any final thoughts you'd like to leave my audience with today?
Like if think that one of the most important things for nutrition, go talk to get into the functional medicine system, talk to them about what you're feeling and all of that type of stuff, because the nutritional side of things, the fuel side of things, the energy side of things is really important. The other thing is, if you're gonna, you want to be active, you want to get into training, you want to feel resilient, feel strong, it's really important. Strength, the strength is one of the most important things that people can work on. Find somebody who's willing to have a look, at your biomechanics, how you work, how your body is functioning and why it's moving that way, so that you can start to piece together controlling your posture under stress. So it's really important that you have control of your body while it's under stress, not just, doing a couple of little physio exercises, but taking those and layering on top of that. Don't be afraid to invest in yourself. If somebody is willing to take the time to work with you for, months or even a year, and they're specifically not just going to work out with you and give you hard workouts, they're going to reconstruct you, help you understand how your body is working. It's one of the most beneficial things you'll ever do. You'll only ever need to do it once, and then your future from an activity point of view will be much, much better, because you'll have much more control of what's going on.
Do you work with clients virtually at all?
So now I only take a few clients a year, and virtually is difficult. One of the things that we're looking at doing in 2026 is we're gonna sort of, I would say, take the retreat style wellness thing to another level. And we're going to bring people in for a week or a week and a half. We're going to go through the major part of the process that we do at the beginning. Then we can work with them virtually for, 9 months or something like that, and then bring them back in and do the same thing, do a roundup, make sure that they understand that they don't need us in the future type of thing, and that they are prepared to do the thing that they want to be able to do for the rest of their lives. So.
Very good. I love that. I love your work. It's very
Thanks.
interesting. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for joining here today. I'd like for you to leave your information, like where people could follow you online and all of that.
Yep. Yeah. So I'm easy to find on LinkedIn, Greg Lothian. I'm on LinkedIn. More than open to connect with people, send me a message, something like that. If you go to acculete.com and go to contact us, typically even the info at acculete.com, I actually get a record of that. I'm not the only one, but so that'll actually go to me. And if you have a question directly for me, I very much believe in not having a bot answer our questions and do things like that. If it's something that I can answer, if I can even get on a phone call with somebody, or if it's something that I can answer online, absolutely I will. So yeah, feel free to connect. I'm open. I want to be available for people. So
Sounds great. Thank you, Greg. Thank
thanks
you
so much
so
for
much.
having me on.
It was my pleasure. Good luck with everything in the future.
You as well.
Okay, take care.
Bye.
Thank you so much for joining me here today. I truly appreciate you being here. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to leave me a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you know someone who would benefit from this, be sure to share it with your friends and your family. Don't forget to follow me here so you'll never miss an episode. Until next time, take good care of yourself, mind, body, and soul. Thank you again.